Welcome to Anything But Live with your host, Spooky and Raven. Tonight we're going to be talking about black-eyed people, beings, and Raven is going to give us her story on her one-on-one encounter, and we're going to have a caller later on. I'm Spooky, and here is your other awesome host, Raven.
Hey, it's anything but ordinary, though, with Spooky and Raven, not anything but live. But it's okay.
Did I say anything but live?
Yeah,
Again?
I'm definitely live. I'm not the Walking Dead, so not yet.
Well, we're back to give it another try. We had so much trouble last Tuesday. It was just unreal. About as unreal as those storms that passed through here last week.
It's okay. I enjoyed it. I thought Laces did an amazing job, and I loved listening to his stories that he had to share with his encounters. So it'll be
Oh,
cool to
yeah.
have him come back again if he ever has anything. Yeah, tonight we're going to
Oh,
talk a little bit about the black-eyed beings, kids, people. Um, there is some people out there that kind of requested it, and see, the thing is I never put much thought into this. I never even really heard about them or knew about them really until I had my encounter. I didn't even know these things existed. Didn't really think about them or nothing. But I know that I've read a lot of people on the internet have had ran into black-eyed kids, saying that they would come and harass them and demand them to let them in their house or, get a car ride somewhere or whatever. Or everybody seemed to have fear right when they saw them, and people don't know if they're like aliens or kids
some
wearing
people think they're
contacts.
vampires.
Yeah.
Some people think they're demons. Some people even think they're aliens. So, and any one of those thoughts is, it's a reasonable explanation. But really, there's not a lot of direct evidence to support any of those theories. Nobody knows where these things came from. Nobody knows how long they've been around.
Right. Well, some people think they're demonic or angels or, ghostly entities as well. I mean, everybody has different theories to what these things are, but I mean, when I was reading about it, I mean, oh, it seems like a lot of people talk about kids, but the things I was starting to read, there was a lot of people who ran into adults that were like this, and a lot of the ones I was kind of reading had similarity to my encounter. So because after I had my encounters, when I started to read research about this, because I'm like, what this? I was just dumbfounded, and it was forever stuck in my head, and I just wanted to figure it out. So that's when I started hearing about these black eye kids or being phenomenon. You know what I mean?
Black-eyed beings are a total unexplained mystery. Nobody knows anything about them. And I have to be honest, I have never had an encounter with one. So I had to pretty much research them.
Hmm.
And what I found was really interesting. I found that a lot of the encounters are men. There are female encounters also, and also there are children. And I noticed that a lot of the things that I was reading mentioned children more than they did the adults. So, and they seem to also follow the same pattern, even though every once in a while, a report will come in and maybe the pattern changes a little bit, but in most cases, they're described as a human-looking being with pure black eyes. Even where you would normally have the whites of your eyes, I mean, the eye is just totally black.
Hmm.
And they always approach a person either at their car or their home and asking to be let in. And they usually have what do you call it, a dry personality or hardly any personality at all. But if you refuse them, they seem to become really, really agitated. I
It
haven't really read any.
reminds me of some people I know in person. No, I'm just
Oh, I
kidding.
hear you. It reminds me of just about anybody in my family. Take a pick. Um, but I haven't really read anything, or maybe I didn't dig deep enough. I haven't really came across anything that that indicated that they harmed anybody. But most of the people who encounter them get a really, really intense feeling of dread or fear, but they can't say exactly why.
Yeah, well, maybe one because the person seems strange looking, and I know that they make black eye contacts, whatever, for that cover the whole eye kind of now, but that's extremely expensive and uncomfortable. And you're running around at night. Then I highly doubt 10-year-olds can afford those type of contact lenses. Let alone the parents are going to let all these children out running throughout the night. You know what I mean?
Right.
For it just there's so many odd things that I read on the internet that people had. Now I'm saving my story for a little bit later because we just started, but you know, it's just there's some people who a lot of people like wanting to know, well, has anybody ever invited them in and what happens when you invite them in? What happens to you? Well, everybody's curious, is there anybody who's ever had that encounter? Well, I haven't ran into anybody that's invited
I did
anybody in
I did read
and they
one
came in.
story where a woman invited one in,
Okay.
and I'll give the link to that later. But I read this woman's story. It's from a woman named Carol, and she seems to think that the one she let in was a vampire. She said that he floated. She was in her second story bedroom, and she looked out the window and there was this guy floating there. And she did say the first time she saw it, she was afraid somebody else was with her. And the second time she opened up the window and it grabbed her arm. And the next thing she knew, it was in her house. But one of the things that I did find interesting was the fact that in just about every case I read, the black-eyed being had to get permission to enter a home or a car. That they can't come in without an invitation. That sounds like a vampire to me. That's every vampire movie I've ever seen.
I mean, not to be rude, but I kind of never really believed in vampires
Oh,
and
I don't
a
either,
lot of
but
this stuff, But I mean, I guess there's always the possibility because I've seen a lot of different things, and I know that other people that we talk with on the internet and stuff had experiences too. But it's hard. I probably would believe someone being possessed over someone being a vampire first. When it comes to this. But
um
I'm not inviting any vampire if they're already out there
I
real
don't
to come
invite strange people into my home or give them a ride in my car. I mean, I'm sorry, they're walking.
just
But
family.
if they flew there on their own, they can fly out on their own. One man did report,
No pun
though,
intended.
about a girl trying to get into his house through a doorway, but every time she tried, there was like an invisible force that stopped her because he refused to give her permission to enter. I mean, a lot of this is I can't say it's legend because there's been numerous encounters with these people, whatever they are.
Right. Well, I've heard of it going really far back beyond the. What did they start saying? It came out in 1990s. I mean, I've read some stories that go farther back. You know, even with some Native American stuff that I was reading about when I was trying to read up on skinwalkers one time when we did a show on that. So, I mean, I know that they've been seen and talked about for a long time, but everybody kind of has their own
Yeah,
version.
but one thing though that does stay kind of constant is the description of them. You know, like they usually have like very pale or sickly looking skin and they have dark hair. Although there was a couple stories about blonde, black-eyed things. Um, they're usually men, but not always. And they often wear all black or very dark clothing. And the term black-eyed kids, I found out, is often used because of of the high number of children with black eyes that have been encountered. And in almost every case, it'll be one or two children around, and they say that the ages, they look to be in the age range of like 10 to 16 years old, and they're the same as the adults. um, they want to come in your car or in your home, and they have almost no personality whatsoever, but if you refuse them, then they become highly agitated.
Um, Scooby had a question. She said, that leads to the question, did that woman open the window because she was asked for permission, or did she do it without verbalizing permission?
She said that it communicated with her telepathically, is
So
what she
tell,
said.
so
I'm
she
going,
gave it an okay, meant
well, according
thought.
to her, her and this being have been having a love affair for a long time. So I don't know if it's this woman's imagination or if she wants attention or if this is truly going on. And I found the story really suspicious and wild. I mean, who invites a total stranger into your house that's pale looking, kind of sickly looking, with not with huge black eyes? Who let somebody like that in their house?
Emo bar flies? I don't know. It's different. I don't know, but I mean, maybe she was bewitched by this being, you know? Maybe they had some type of control.
I don't know. I don't know. She, like I said, I'll drop the link in chat here pretty soon. And oh, another thing I read about the kids was that they often wear no shoes. They're dirty and disheveled,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
just as void of personality as the adults. But they're also quick to rise to anger when told no. They do not like being told no.
I read a couple stories where, you know, people were in like a Walmart or somebody was like in New York City or some of them were in a bookstore or whatever, and they just got this weirdest feeling and then their hair stood up and then they turned and they saw this person or child standing there kind of looking down, and then they were kind of staring at them and they just got this really odd feeling, kind of like the flight, you know, fear flight kind of thing, whatever. And then this thing would look up at them, and then they'd notice their eyes, look at their face, see it was kind of different. And then a couple of them did mention that it seemed like they were scanning their thoughts, like they could read their thoughts. You know what I mean? Because Scooby had mentioned that she never really read that any of them had telepathic powers or whatever. But the ones that I was reading, people were mentioning that they were reading their thoughts, and it was freaking them out. You know, so I mean, it's hard to say what's true on the internet and what's not true. Now, before I had my experience, if somebody was saying this stuff to me, I'd have been like, you know what I mean? I wouldn't believe it. I'd put it back with how, you know, everything with a vampire story, werewolf story, you know, people are just letting things go to their head or whatever. I mean, I do believe in spirits and paranormal activity. I do believe that people have the possibility of having attachments and possession or whatever. But at that time, I mean, I knew nothing about black-eyed beans. I didn't, you know, and if somebody talked to me about it, I probably, to be honest, wouldn't believe them. You know what I mean? I'm the type of person who's like, prove it. Show me an alien.
Exactly.
Show me this. Show me it.
Exactly.
And even then, I would, you know, check for a costume like Bigfoot
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff, you know. But
Bring one to meet me, because you
well,
can bet the first thing I'm going to do is go for those eyes.
well,
But no one knows exactly what these things are or where they come from. I mean, they've uh, they've been. There was a woman that reported a daytime encounter with female in in a gas station restroom, and she said that the woman just stood there and stared her down. Didn't say anything to her. The woman didn't say if she got a the feeling of dread or fear,
yeah.
and she didn't tell much about her encounter.
Right.
But
She just said she saw somebody who had dark eyes, or I mean, or she just said she ran into some weirdo. I mean, because there are weirdos in the world.
well, she
So
called it a
I mean, that's
black-eyed
okay.
being.
Okay.
So being, not bean. Uh,
Beans. Yeah.
beans, black-eyed beans. Um, but she didn't really go too far into her story. I read about cases. Matter of fact, there were a couple cases I read about involving a couple of men, and the person that they encountered, um,
Yes.
the I lost my train of thought. I can't believe it. The person that they encountered, the black-eyed being that they encountered, they drove away in their car. This thing wanted a ride in their car, and they said no. So they took off in their car and they got down the street, and they said two or three different times on the way home they saw this thing uh,
On
th-
different
on
blocks
different
that have.
blocks. It was like, it would get 2 blocks ahead of them. And they said that they saw it two or three different times on the way home. Now, there's really no physical way that anybody can travel that far that fast.
Unless you have a jetpack or
Or you're a black-eyed being.
or that easy button, on that commercial.
Yeah. Oh, I love that easy button. Too bad that it's not real.
Not yet, but yeah. No, yeah, I mean, yeah, that would kind of creep me out. See, to me, if you see something like that, that would make me think, okay, paranormal, maybe a ghost,
Right.
not a vampire. I mean, I still have a hard time. I'm not inviting a vampire to come and say, here I am, but I'm sorry, I don't really believe in you guys.
Well, what I was reading, I mean, in just about every case, the thing had to get permission to enter home or car. They couldn't come in without an invitation, even if they wanted to. And like I said before, that's just about every vampire movie I've ever seen in my life. They
Right.
have to
So
have permission to come in. Now, I don't believe in
but
vampires.
wait, so do skinwalkers. Remember? So do
Yes, so
skinwalkers.
so did in the
So
skinwalkers, but
right. So maybe there's like maybe if these things have they're like dark entities possessing somebody, let's say, maybe they need to have permission to come in to do what they need to do. Because skinwalkers, they're doing harm and stuff, and they need permission to come in. If you don't give them permission, then they can't come in. You know what I mean? So maybe there's something that has to do with.
that's what I say. When I read that, I immediately thought vampire. I mean, it just popped into my head, vampire. And the first thing that popped in my head was that's just about any vampire movie you could watch. They had, that's one part of the vampire legend. They had to have permission to enter your home. But once you invited them in, you were no longer safe.
Right.
Be-
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know. Um, like I said, I've never ran into anybody who's invited one in
Me
and
neither.
told me what happened. Now, I had an encounter where, like I said, me and my brother lived on the same block at this time, and it was a while back. And we were just hanging out, and it was probably like 7, 8 years ago, and I don't know, it was been a long time anyway. And we were hanging out, and I was sitting out on his front stoop, and we were smoking cigarettes, and I was kind of in a transition phase of my life and was just wanting to everything different, different job, just different experiences, different everything, I just but didn't know what. And I didn't, I mean, I believed in God, I believed in a creator or whatever, but I didn't really have that connection, and I was telling him how I kind of really wanted to research this out and find out what this whole thing's about, and just not just go by things that you're taught when you're growing up from a church or what people say to you, but really soul search this stuff out and figure it out on my own, and telling him that we should really help out people more, not just not just people we know, but strangers, just start doing more random acts of kindness to complete strangers, because it's easy to help people that you already know, you know what I mean? But how
Right.
many people really go out of their way to help people that they don't know? And it's very rare, you know what I mean? And I was making comments like that and stuff like that. And he's like, I'm not going to do that. You can, but I'm not, And I was like, well, whatever. And so then I went home, and on my way home, there was this car blocking my driveway. At the time, I lived in a townhome, And you got the houses connected, you got the two driveways, and then you got that little tiny gravel patch in the middle, you know what I mean, between the two driveways. Now, this person was directly in front of my driveway, and I was like, what the F is this person blocking my driveway for? So I had to go past them, drive up on my grass, and then cut in, and then to get on my driveway, open my garage, and pull in, you know. And I was just like, what is this person doing here? It was probably like 1 or 2 in the morning at the time when this happened. I lived on the corner of that block, and it was a busy street, kind of like right there. And then, you know, you turn in, mine's like the first house. So, and there is kind of a street light right there on the corner, but it doesn't really light up where my driveway is, but it casts some light there. And I pulled up, and I get in my garage, and I look out my rear view mirror, and I see this person hop out of the car, and they pop up the hood of their car, and they're looking underneath at the engine. And I thought, in my head, I'm like, oh, here's my chance. I can go help a random stranger, like I was just talking about with my brother, like not even 10 minutes ago, or I can just go inside and say, screw it, right? And then I was debating, and something inside me say, oh, just shut the garage, you know, just screw it, don't help him, just go inside. And I'm like, no, I'm going to do it. So I got out of my car, and I started heading out onto my driveway, and I said, hey, do you need any help? You know, and this woman said, my car's overheating, you know, and I can't get the radiator cap off. And I said, oh, you know, let me see if I can help you. So I started walking towards her, and she handed me the you know, like a rag or whatever, and I was trying to take off the radiator cap, and it was stuck. But when I was talking to her, it's when I turned to talk to her, I noticed that her eyes were completely black, and I was just kind of like, whoa, you know what I mean? And I noticed that she looked completely different. I mean, her skin was not normal. I mean, everything about her was strange. I mean, her clothes were kind of like drab, like they didn't really, they seemed plain, you know what I mean? It just didn't really go with, you know, what we wear now, you know what I mean? Her hair was like a
Right.
blondish color, but it wasn't really, you know, natural blonde. I don't know how to explain it. Her face and her skin was like a pale gray color, and her eyes were like completely black. And I was just like, I remember just staring at her and just, I don't know, it was weird. It's like everything around me just stopped. It was just me and her and that car, and the car was completely ice cold. It wasn't hot. When she just said that her car was overheating, you know. And when I remember looking at the car was identical to my brother's car. It was the exact same car. It had the exact same color. And my brother had a used beat up car, right? This car had the same dents, rust spots, and everything. It was to a T my brother's car. This lady was completely strange looking, and the way that she spoke, like you guys said, she had absolutely no emotion to her. She was like monotone. You know what I mean? Just there was no up or down, no emotion behind her. Just saying she needed help, that her car was overheating, and just the way she looked, the way that she dressed, and just her eyes, I just couldn't stop staring at her, and it was like the weirdest. It's like forever burned in my head, right? I'll never forget this experience, and she kind of reminded me a little bit of a friend that I had who had passed over because she had similar features to her, and just I was just kind
Is
of
that
trying
why
to.
you approached her?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Couldn't see who she was. It was dark. It was like 1 or 2 in the morning. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And like I said, the light was at the corner of the block, and you know it was a little ways away from it, so it was only a light semi kind of casting down. But I mean, you could tell that she was not. Her eyes they're not normal. They were completely all black, like bug eyes. I don't know how to explain it. You know what I mean? They didn't even have our normal shape like we have. You know what I mean? And her skin was completely perfect. There was no flaws whatsoever. You know what I mean? She just looked perfect, and it was grayish white, and the way she was dressed was really plain, and just like a little blouse, and it just didn't match. You know what I mean? Just everything seemed odd. The fact that the car was exactly like with my brother's car to a T, like she just went and borrowed it and parked it in front of my house. You know what I mean? And it's just I was asking her because I couldn't get the thing off, and then I asked her if she wanted to come in, you know, to make a phone call, and she said no, that's okay. And I said, well, I can bring my phone back out to you if you want, and she said no, that's okay. And then I said, okay, well, I'm gonna go in. If you need anything, just come knock on the door. I'll be up for a while, you know. But when I went in and I shut the door and I turned to the right, looked out the window, she was gone. The car was gone and she was gone. It only take like a couple of seconds to look out and see. She still would have been there. There's no way that in that couple of seconds
You
she would have
didn't
been
hear
gone.
you didn't hear a car leave. The car was gone too.
Yeah, everything was gone. She was gone. The car was gone. Didn't hear no sound. She's like gone. You know what I mean?
Wow. When you were near her, I mean, you actually talked to her, right? When you were near
Yeah,
her,
for a
did you
while.
get any kind of a feeling of dread or fear, or maybe something told you that you shouldn't be standing there talking to this person?
Only, okay, when I pulled into the garage, you know, and I had to go up on my grass, cut into the driveway, and get into my garage, I was looking in the mirror, and you know how you have like the good angel and the bad angel on your shoulder saying, go help. And the other one's like, screw her, just go inside and go to bed. You know what I mean? That's the only time that I had like that debate. And then I thought, well, here's my chance that I was just talking about with my brother about doing good things for complete strangers, you know? And, you know, I thought, here's my chance to start doing it. And I didn't like run up to her when I started coming out. I cautiously walked out a little bit and said, "Hey, are you okay? Do you need any help?" And that's when I noticed she was a female, but it was still, you know,
I don't know if I would have approached a stranger at 2 o'clock in the morning to begin with, but um, it's just so odd that you walk in the house and then look out a window and poof, she's gone. Did that get you to thinking about what who this was that you had just encountered?
well, what? See, this is the weird thing. Is like when I walked up on her, and then I said, "Hey," and then right when I made like eye contact with her, it seemed like everything disappeared in the world except for it was just me, her, and that car, and it was just like everything else didn't exist around us, and it was kind of like just me. It was just like I said, I can't explain it. It was just the oddest thing. It was, and I, when and we locked eyes. It's not like, you know, you look at somebody, look down and, you know, banter or whatever. I mean, we were locked eyes talking. And I remember looking at her and analyzing her. And in my head, I'm thinking, this isn't right. What's wrong? This isn't right. What's wrong? You know, just my brain was like trying to calculate everything that I was seeing and experiencing. Say, okay, why is this person look weird? What's wrong with this person? And then I started noticing her skin, and it was noticing her eyes. I noticed her hair wasn't natural, like how we have hair, natural hair. You know, it just seemed her hair seemed weird. Not you know, like how to explain it? You know how dead people's hair feels and looks like? It's
Yeah.
you know
Yes,
I'm
as a
talking.
matter of fact, I do.
Oh yeah, you do. But it just everything about her was so off. The way that she talked, the way that she looked, the way that she was dressed, the fact that she had the exact same car that my brother had with the same dent, rust, and everything else. And she said that her car just overheated, but that car was ice cold. And when she touched me, she was ice cold.
That was my next question. Did you see any steam at all coming out of that car? I mean, I've had cars overheat on me before, and there's always steam.
Right. I think the reason that she was a female maybe made me think, oh, it's, you know, and I was right there. And I'm a social person anyway,
And
and
if the car was cold and it overheated, how long ago did it overheat?
right. The thing is that uh, the it goes to a bunch of things. The fact that I just had that conversation with my brother down the block not that long ago, then all of a sudden this car's blocking my driveway at 1 or 2 in the morning, and there's no way I could avoid them. I had to literally drive around and go up in my grass and cut back into my driveway to get into my garage. There was no avoiding this person if I wanted to. I mean, it was pretty like in your face. Here I am. Here's your chance to help, you know. And then I walk out there real slowly, and then it wasn't until I approached her, as like I said, is when everything kind of hit me, like, not really hit me at that time, but I knew that there was something really wrong and that she wasn't normal. I didn't have fear. I didn't have dread. I didn't think, oh my
You
gosh,
just
I'm in
had a feeling
danger.
that she just did not belong there.
No, I had a
Uh,
feeling there's just something not right.
yeah,
But I didn't have any fear. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, she's gonna kill me or anything. Which, you know what, it's kind of dumb to go up and help someone like that because I didn't know if there was somebody in her car. They could have scooped up,
right.
swoosh, took off, and who knows what she could have did. She could have jacked me, went in the house, did whatever. You know what I mean? It's just, but I think it was when I was walking away from her is when everything started clicking. Like, wait a minute, that car is my brother's car. She looks just like a friend that I had that passed when I was a teenager. You know what I mean? She had black eyes. Her skin was flawless and completely gray and white. I mean, she was just the shape of her eyes weren't like how our eyes are shaped. Do you know what I'm saying? There was absolutely no white to it. I mean, they were just black, like all black, and they were shaped. I can't, I'm trying to draw how he looks like this, but I don't know,
That kind of
like
makes you wonder right there. You say that that looked like your brother's car.
had the exact
You
same
look,
dense rust
she looked,
color.
she looked like a friend that you had once.
Who passed?
Are
Yeah.
who passed? Are they able to take on the appearance of anything or anyone they want to? And how would she know to uh, to create that particular car and to look like that particular person? How would she do that? I mean, how would she know to do that?
I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know if mine's like I mean, I don't even know what these beings are. That's the thing. I know she was real because when I touched her hand to get the rig, but her skin was like very cold. It wasn't like when you touch somebody, they have warmth. This person was ice cold. She had no warmth to her. She was very monotone, had no emotion in her voice when she was talking. It was just all one level, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't seem panicked. She didn't seem excited. She didn't seem, you know, any emotion. She just said that she needed help, and then I was
See,
helping her.
that's one thing about the description of these. When people tell about their encounters with these, the one thing that they all agree on or say the same thing about is that they were kind of monotone in their talk and they barely had any kind of personality at all, almost like a robot.
Well, the thing is, and people don't really have a lot of, how everybody has a cell phone attached to them now. I mean,
Yeah,
7, 8 years ago, I mean, I wasn't huge on cell phone stuff back then, but I
I'm
had
still
one.
not, but have to carry one.
Right. But, I invited her in and she said, no, that's okay. And then I said, well, I can come out and bring my phone to you. She said, no, that's okay. So this thing, um,
That's kind of different.
yeah.
She
So,
said no.
right. And I said, well, I'll have my lights on. You can come up. Well, but before I even had the garage shut and look out the window, she was gone. I would have heard the car start up and she would have already took off. You know what I'm saying? It just none of it added up. None of it made sense. I know it was all real because I touched it, but everything about that, the car was ice cold. She was cold. She was gray and white. Her eyes were completely black, and like I don't know if you want to say the almond shape, but it was just a different shape. I don't know how to explain it. Her skin was weird. Her hair was weird, but when I say her skin was weird, it's because it had different coloring and wasn't natural for a person, not even albino. I have a friend who's an albino, but it was flawless. I mean, there was no. It was like, I don't know how to explain it. There's nobody in the world that has that perfect of a face. You know what I mean?
Really, not
And the
without
fact that
plastic surgery.
not even then they still have flaws. But this person, I mean, she didn't look exactly like my friend who had passed, but she definitely had a
She
huge
resembled her.
similar. Yeah. So yeah, and I think that threw me off. And just when I started to walk away, everything started adding up, and I'm like, wait a minute, And like I said, when it was just me and her, when I was looking at her, it's like the whole world disappeared, and the only thing that existed was me, her, and that car.
You know what I kind of think? Reading these stories and researching this, and like I said, the one common thing that they all reported was they tried to get into a person's car or a person's house.
Mhm.
And
She didn't.
I read where the people who have spoken to them often say that they make a reference to not having a home, and they seem to be wandering around looking for something. And I just wonder if their idea of a home is not a house but a body to live in.
Right. That's what some people think. But when this woman seemed like, I mean, she wanted help. She wanted help. She wanted my help, right? But when I invited her to get more help, it's like she didn't want it. You know what I mean? She just wanted me to help her. But I'm not a mechanic. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I don't even know. I mean, I wanted to help take the radiator cap off, but I don't even. And that's the thing. I'm like, why wasn't I thinking about taking that out in the danger? It was just like when I locked eyes with her, it's like all common sense went out the world. Just woo out the window. You know what I mean? And I'm always really observant,
And the thing of it
protective
was, you were
of
so
stuff.
helpful. I mean, you walked up, you talked to her, you touched her car, you invited her in to, I'm assuming, to use the
Use the phone,
phone,
right?
and she turned you down.
Right.
That goes against everything that everybody has really said about them. Because usually people get a sense of fear and dread and won't let them in their homes, and all of a sudden, the only time they show emotion is when they get angry.
But she didn't have no emotion. She was just flat.
Hmm.
Everything was just, there was no up and down in her voice. She wasn't, she was acting like she was worried, like she need help, I need help, but it didn't come out in her body language. It didn't come out in her voice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the fact that, go in, just shut the door, turn around, she's gone. Like that. You know what I mean? It just this happened a long time ago, but to me it's like stuck in my memory like it just happened yesterday. I'll
Oh,
never
of
forget
course. An
every
encounter
single
like
detail
that, you
of it.
don't forget. I mean, even years later, when you start thinking on things, that particular encounter will probably always pop into your head.
Oh, it does all the time. It does all the time when I go past that space too. You know what I mean? When I go past that old place that I used to live at, I always remember that. And it's like there's a lot of times where I'll just be, sitting around, all of a sudden that thought pops in my head, and it's like I can remember every single detail. I remember what I was wearing. I remember, what it was like outside, what the weather was like. There was nobody else on the street. There was nobody driving down that busy road at that time. It was just me and her, and I'll never forget anything about her, and if I saw her on the street again, I could pick her out easy like that, and even in New York City, you know what I mean? I have her, every detail of her burnt in my brain, and it's like I said, I never knew anything about black-eyed beans. I didn't know anything about black-eyed kids. I've never heard of them. I didn't know nothing about this. I wasn't thinking about it, so I didn't conjure the thought up and make this thing appear. I didn't do any of these things that people say, well, maybe this person did this, or you can do this, or can do that. I didn't do nothing. All I did was have a conversation with my brother saying how I wanted to start helping people out more. And all of a sudden, it was like, here's a test. We'll see if she's really going to follow through. If they all of a sudden there was this thing right blocking my driveway, and I had literally had to go up on the grass to get into my driveway to go in to my house. So there was no avoiding her. So you know how sometimes, and I
She
just,
was positioned where you had to have some kind of contact with her.
right, and she would. I mean, everybody would literally know. She blatantly ignored you and went inside. There is no way around it. You know what I mean? And I had the thought, either do go help her or ignore it. And something said you should just ignore it, but I ignored that thought and went out and helped her anyway. And it's like, I know, like, some people believe in the Bible and all that kind of stuff, and they always say sometimes you don't know if you're entertaining angels. It's like, how, maybe it could have been a test, because here I am talking about how I want to get to know God, this whole God thing, and I want to start doing nice things for strangers and, change my life and do all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, not even 5 minutes later, this happens and I encounter this odd being. Now, some people say that they're demons, some
I
people say
I
they're
don't think
angels, some people say they're aliens, but,
I don't
you know,
I don't think that it was an angel. I mean, an angel would not have acted that way.
but she didn't
And
really.
there are some that think they're demons that take the form of humans to steal their souls. And to me, that's probably a closer theory on them, more plausible than they are aliens that are trying to fit into society and maybe find a place to live, or that there's some sort of vampire
I don't
trying to
believe it.
steal a person's blood and energy.
But I don't believe it was an alien or a vampire because how can it make itself look like a friend that I had who passed over? How can it have the exact same car that my brother had with the same color? My brother had a beater, same rust spots and holes and everything else. You know what I mean? And why would it happen right after I just get done telling him I want to start helping out people and I want to start to try to figure out this God thing and maybe have a relationship with God, you know? And then all of a sudden
Do
this
you
all
think maybe it
happens.
was just a coincidence?
That's a pretty big coincidence to make sure I couldn't
Well,
avoid it.
personally, I don't believe in coincidences, but I do use the word a lot because sometimes that's what a lot of people do understand. Um, I read a story where a guy, where one of the black-eyed people was caught on a security camera in an elevator,
Hmm.
and there was a man in the elevator with him. But later on, when the man viewed the tapes, he appeared to be alone in the elevator.
See, that kind of goes with, but see, that goes with the whole vampire thing
Yeah, I
that,
know. I mean, everything I read just points to vampire, and I can't believe this. Like I said, I do not believe in vampires. I don't believe they exist. I don't
well,
believe
as
that they're
far as
people
for,
turning into bats, flying around, sucking people's blood.
that's movies though. Nobody really said if there are vampires, they turn into bats. Maybe vampires are demons. But the thing is this person, I guess, would just match the description of what a quote unquote Hollywood vampire would be. They were gray, pale skin, but her skin was perfect, flawless.
Maybe it was Edward from Twilight.
Nope. It definitely was not, and she didn't sparkle. But
She didn't spark. It was nighttime. She couldn't sparkle.
well, but no, this is I know we're joking, but this really did happen. This is a serious thing, and I came on talking about this thing because we had a little request by Scooby and some of the people that she was chatting with in a group. I don't know what the group was, but a lot of people are like, "Well, we don't believe in it," and you know what? I wouldn't have believed in it either, but I had a real encounter, and I touched this car, I touched this person, and I saw what that person was. That was no context. Context cannot create the effect that this person's eyes or whatever this was. And no person has I've ever seen looked like this person with that type of skin and the shape of eyes and just I don't know. I can't explain it, but I'll never forget that incident. And you know what? She wasn't mean. She wasn't cold. She didn't get angry at me. It's almost like even if it wasn't a angel or whatever, but it was obviously, uh, a test. I think it was some type of test of some sort. Be it whatever it was. Kids said, "Okay, I'm just gonna see if this person's actually gonna follow through with what they just said they were gonna do." You know, I believe that's what it was because it's just too much of a
It's a very
coincidence.
strange test.
How is it a strange test when I just said like 5-10 minutes down the ago I was down the street telling my brother that we should start helping out strangers. I never did that before, and I said we should really do this, and I want to get to know this whole God thing. All of a sudden, I drive down the street, and this woman's blocking my driveway, not anybody else's but mine. I literally had to go up in the grass to get around her. And I couldn't avoid her. And then I go up, and she has the exact same car that my brother has, and she's bizarre looking with black eyes. I'm sorry. I don't know what this thing is, but I know it was not human, you know? And I know she was real because I touched her. When she handed me that rig, and I know that car was real because I touched it too, and they were both ice cold. And then when I went into the house and I started, really thinking about everything I was looking at, and then I shut the door and I turned around and looked out the window, she was gone.
I know, that's just so odd. Um,
If it's an
Maybe
alien, I
maybe
don't
it
know.
wasn't your typical black-eyed person.
I don't know
You
what a
know, I
typical
mean,
person
because
is.
they turned down your invitation to go in your house, um, and as fast as they were gone. I mean, what was it? 5 seconds?
Oh, T3M Paranormal. That's who was wanting to hear about this show tonight. Not probably 5 seconds. Didn't take me that long to watch. She had a if it was a normal person leaving with her car, I would have heard her fired up before I even got into the garage all the way, and she would have drove off by the time I reached the door. You know what I mean? I
Or
would have heard
even if she
that.
had called a tow truck. I mean, it's still not going to get gone that fast.
How would a tow truck get there in 5 seconds? I mean, I
Right.
literally walked away from her,
Exactly.
shut the door, and looked out the window, and she was gone.
Well, she would have had to have called it in advance, but my point is that even a tow truck, you would
I
have
would
heard
have
the tow
heard.
truck, and
I've
it would
heard.
take it more than
Yeah.
5 seconds to get it up on a tow truck and be gone.
And they're loud. And I've heard
Very
tow
loud.
trucks. I've heard tow trucks in that area because some people party and it's on that busy street right there, and some people come whipping around the corner and they smashed into this what do you call it? Not the sidewalk, but the curb right there, and they totaled their axle front end, and a tow truck had to come and pick them up, and they're loud at 2 in the morning. They go, they got the beeping back noise, beep beep beep, and they make all the noise and clanging and banging. It would take a good 10 minutes to do all that, and I would have heard all that. She was just like that, gone,
And
literally gone.
Scooby's making a good point. Did not evoke fear in Raven either.
Well,
Because almost every story of an encounter ends with the person feeling great fear and running away.
but maybe it has to do with that person. Maybe they thrive off of being making people fearful. Maybe because I didn't give that normal reaction, they decided to move on to somebody else.
Could have been. Maybe once they got a look at you, maybe they thought, damn, I'm at the wrong house.
I don't know, but I
But
know that what I
after you went in your house, okay? I mean, I know you said you didn't have a feeling of fear or dread while you were next to this thing.
when I was
When
next
you
to this
got in your
thing,
house and you saw that her and the car were gone, how did you feel then? Did you start really wondering, was that real? Did I really talk to that person?
I had everything racing in my head, and then I started thinking about, oh my gosh, what the hell, what was I? I'm like, I never ever invite people to my house. I would never invite somebody into my house at that time to use a phone. I
I
don't
don't
know.
even invite people in I know.
I know, but this is the weirdest thing. This is what I was thinking about. I'm like, what the hell? Why did I say that? Why did I say come on in? Like, hey, it's no big deal. It was the I never barely even invite some friends into my my house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, everything was odd. It was odd that I even said, come on in, like it was no big deal, like we were pals. Like I said, when I was talking with her and I was right there, it was like the whole world disappeared. It was just me and her. And it was like I was acting like I was her best friend, you know? It was like the weirdest thing. And nothing made sense to me. And I always, to this day, even before we did the show, even when Scooby asked, hey, maybe can you, tell your story again or whatever, I mean, I analyze this and think about it all the time. Sometimes I'm at break at work. All of a sudden it pops in my head and I think about this and I think about every single detail and I think about this person and I'm just like, what? You know what I mean? I can't figure it out. And it's just, I'll never figure it
See,
out.
that's what I do when I encounter something strange or somebody strange. I think about it later, like, what in the world was that? What just happened?
But why did she have the exact same car with the same rust spots, dents, and gray coloring that my brother had? Why did she have similarities to what my friend looked like who passed? Why was her eyes all black? Why all of that? Why did I have this? I had this conversation with my brother, not even 5 minutes drive down the street, and this person's blocking my driveway. There's no avoiding this person. How did she just disappear? Why was she at cold? Why was this thing cold? You know,
Maybe she was hanging around down at your brother's place, and I'm not trying to make a joke or anything, but maybe she was hanging out down by your brother's place listening to your conversation and knew you were going home.
but how would she know where I lived?
Good question.
you know but the fact is that there is something to this black-eyed being phenomenon, because I had an encounter. I'll never forget it. And It's like I always hope I never run into her again. And you know what? I did started feeling kind of fearful afterwards, after everything was done and said, and I really started thinking about everything. That's when it kind of set in and I started having an uneasy feeling like, what did I just encounter? Who did I just
Really?
encounter? And I'll never forget this, and I'll always think about it. And it's like, and to be honest with you, I hope I never run into one ever again because I don't want to see what could, I don't, if it's alien or a demon or some kind of spirit that could take on forms and create things to make itself so solid. You know what I
Big
mean?
Boy wants to know if you were able to sleep that night.
I don't think I did. I think I just sat up and had the TV on, and I think I called some people, who stay up like I do at 2 and 1 in the morning, and just be like, "Dude, check this out." And I remember, I think I just thought about it, but I know the next day, I might have slept a little bit, but when I woke up the next day, I called my brother and I said, "Hey, when cars are overheating, doesn't it do this, 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 and this, and this, and this?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Well, this just all happened to me, and this person had the exact same car you did." I mean, it was just, and I told him everything, and it did. I'll
What'd he
never
say
forget.
about it? I mean, you're just down there, you're talking to him about being a nicer person,
And doing stuff for strangers, yeah.
doing stuff for strangers, a good deed for a stranger, and you walk down the street, or not walk, drove down the street, and your driveway is blocked by this familiar looking car and this familiar looking person standing there. It one would think that maybe it was an angel, but I just everything I've read about these people, I cannot believe that they're angels.
No, I don't know. I mean, typical. Okay, I guess if you're gonna go with the religion thing, you know what I mean?
No, I
With some
mean,
people.
well, talking
No, no,
about
no.
giving
But
you a
well, wait.
test,
No, but this is
testing
what
you.
I'm saying. But listen, this is what I'm saying. It's like, aren't angels demons anyway? Because if you go by the Bible and what people say is that they're fallen angels. You know what I mean? So what else would be testing me? An alien? Why would an alien come test me? How would they be able to create the my brother's car? How could they create them to look almost like my friend who had passed? I mean, I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was, but I know that it was solid. I know that they were real because they talked to me. I touched them, their hand, and I touched that car, and it was real. It was cold, and they were real. And then they
And
just
then
disappeared.
and then you say you didn't have fear. I have read some stories though where people had a very intense instinctive reaction telling them to not let this being know that it is affecting them. And I mean, these were people that sensed the danger, but fought the instinct to run. So there are stories out there about people who, even though they were afraid, they would not let this thing know it. I refer
Right,
to
but
them as things because it's a whole lot easier for me to say, or I'll get tongue tied.
or yeah, beans, yeah,
Beans.
beans, but no, I don't, like I said, I don't know what it is. I can only, take a guess, like, okay, I was doing this, had this conversation prior before it happened, and then all of a sudden it happens. And I'm just saying this because people gave me these, said, well, maybe it was this, or maybe it was that, maybe it was an angel, or maybe it was a demon, or maybe it was an alien, I don't know what it was, but I know that it was real. I know that it happened.
Scooby's making a good point. She says, I don't think they'd be angels because angels always say, do not be afraid.
But she didn't. But I wasn't afraid when I was talking to her. But I do know that it's almost like I was in a trance, almost
Uh-huh.
because everything else didn't exist except for me, her, and that car. And it was like I was just taken in by this person. I was just in awe, and it was just
But
like,
I've read stories about that too, that
but then
that
I was, wait, but this is what I was like. I was just like, I don't do this. Like, hey, come on in. Hey, hey, yeah, like we're back. I would
like your
never do
best
that.
buddies.
Yeah, and when I went back and I'm like, well, why did I do that? Why was I acting that way? Why this? What the heck? Everything. To this day, I still don't know. I still don't know. I know it happened, but I don't know what the hell this was. I don't know why I said, come on in, you know, without even, it's like it came out of my mouth without me even thinking about it. It said, hey, come on in. And I'm like, what the hell did I say that for? You know, there's just so many things I think about, and I never stop thinking about this. And it's like it just happened yesterday, and I can tell you every single detail, you know, over and over again.
But
And
your story isn't the only one though um, there have been people say that when they looked into their eyes that they forgot everything around them. It was like just those two, and that's all that was there. You had the same sensation.
hmm I did for a good long. I don't even know how long I was out there with this person. To be honest with you, I don't. You know, I remember when I came home, it was about 1ish or 2ish, but I don't know how long I was standing out there with this person. I don't know if that's the only place we were at. Maybe we went somewhere else and I don't remember it. You know, if it
Did
was
you
a
have a
quote
sense of
unquote.
losing time?
To be honest, I don't even remember how long I was out there or anything. I Yes, time didn't exist when I was talking to this person. It was just me, her, and the car, and we were like in a bubble, and everything else seemed to fade away. You know what I mean? And I don't know how long I was out there with her. I don't know how long we were talking. We didn't really
I
have a full
wonder if you were the
conversation.
only person though that could see her. It's like the guy in the elevator. When they looked at the security tapes of later of him in that elevator, he was alone, but yet the guy watching the security camera saw two people on that elevator.
Well, I know that a
And
lot of people say that when they have encountered black-eyed beings, these people have also seen UFOs. I'm not saying they're aliens from outer space, but I've seen unidentified flying objects before. Where it comes from, I don't know, but I know that a lot of people I was reading that who also had those experiences with black-eyed beings also have seen UFOs throughout their lives. So I don't know if that plays anything with it too. But I mean, there's just so many things that just don't add up, and it's just something I'll never forget about. And it's definitely not. I don't ever want to encounter one again. You know.
I well, my point to the statement that I was making is I wonder if anybody walked by and didn't see this thing and thought you were standing there talking to yourself. So it makes me wonder if, like, if you,
Nobody would be out there at that place that I lived at. Everybody was in bed in their house. I mean, somebody could have looked out the window and looked at me, you know, but everybody was in their house. There was nobody out at that time. Like I said, it was completely dead. There was no
well,
cars even driving down the busy road, which was weird.
but I wonder if the only person that can see these things or the person that is encountering them at the time. I wonder if other
I
people
don't know.
can see them or not.
I don't know. All I can tell you is what happened to me and what I was experiencing. Like I said, nothing else existed except for me, this person, in that car at the time. And I don't know. I can't tell you how long I was out there, and I didn't. And I just everything started to hit me right when I turned away to walk away from her. That's when I started to come back to myself and really start to come back to my wits and really thinking like, what the hell were you doing? Why did you grab for the radiator cap? Why did you just try to rip it off without even thinking about, okay, you could get really hurt? Why did you
I
just
know
tell?
you don't just. I mean, I'm not a mechanic or anything.
Well, I would never do that. Yeah,
My dad made me and my sisters all take at least a year's auto mechanics in school.
right,
But I mean, a radiator builds up pressure.
right,
Okay, when you take that cap off, you don't just twist it and pull it off because then you're going to get a bunch of hot water right in your face.
right,
But you say the car was cold, and you didn't
right.
think about opening up that radiator
Danger.
cap, taking that radiator cap off.
Right.
So you kind of your attention was
Mm,
diverted.
clouded. Clouded.
Yeah,
I think
clouded. Thank
I
you.
think I was
Good word.
clouded, you know, because it was just me, her, and everything else. And I know we're gonna do intermission, but I'm finishing this part a little bit because we're gonna have somebody else call in and share their story. But like I said, I don't. Maybe it was almost like you were in a trance because I didn't think of. I was doing things I would never do. I would jump in to help a stranger at 2 in the morning, invite them into my house, you know, which I would never do. Try to take off a hot raider cap, you know, not even thinking of the dangers. You know, it was just there's so many things that I would never normally do. It's like it just weird things. where I normally think everything through. You know what I mean? It
Right.
just, out to this day, I'll never stop thinking about this incident, and it's burned in my head forever. And I could spot her out, like I said, in a crowd of New York City. I could spot her out. You know.
Right.
Well, we're gonna take a quick intermission, like 3 minutes and some odd seconds. Let everybody go get a drink or hit the hopper, bathroom, whatever you want to call it. For those of you who are listening over at Ustream, you can scroll down to find our URL and come to our website and join in with the chat and discussion and ask us questions if you want. And we'll be back in 3 minutes.
Anything but ordinary. We're going to have our caller. Where'd she
Penny.
go? Our
She's,
our
yes.
caller tonight is Penny. Is she
Hmm.
here?
She should be. She was gonna call in, I think. We're supposed to let her know, so maybe you can add her to the call. She was supposed to join in.
She's probably still timing intermission.
Right. Well, you can finish kind of like what you're saying until Penny calls in and shares with us what she experienced.
Well, like I was saying before, I mean, nobody really knows what these things are. I have never encountered one, so I can't, um, I'm not an expert. I mean, I can't give you a firsthand story. Everything that I know about them, I read. And like I said, some of the theories about them are that they're demons taking the form of humans to steal their souls, or that they're vampires looking to take blood and energy from people, or they're aliens trying to fit into society. But and while these may all be somewhat reasonable explanations, there's really not a lot of direct evidence to support any of them because these things are so mysterious that they're just a mystery. Nobody knows what they are, but people are encountering them. Are you with us,
Right.
Penny?
Uh,
Yeah, I'm here.
oh, great.
Okay.
Welcome, Penny.
Um, why don't you tell us about your encounter, Penny?
Hello. I guess you're lost.
No, she may be having problems. So, anywho,
Well,
I
Penny, if
never,
you can hear, just start talking again.
um, I never. Somebody wanted to know
Mm-hmm.
if there were any cases of people who invited them into their homes and were okay afterwards. I never read any stories like that, except for that one, and I did post the link in chat. But that story just seemed so far-fetched, even to me. And I'm just about open-minded to anything. But
Right.
but that's the only one that I read.
Well, like I said, if I never had my encounter or ran into this person or, saw them face to face and saw everything that I saw, I wouldn't believe, I would think that these were just, made up stories, passed on because it's kind of like far-fetched, like I said, with vampires. But like I said, when I had my experience, I knew nothing about these things. I'd never heard about them before. So I wasn't, maybe that's maybe why I had no fear. Maybe I was just in shock at what I was looking at, like, what the heck? You know what I mean?
But very few people though report being having an encounter with them that they didn't feel that. But the biggest percentage of the people always had a sensation of fear and dread.
Hmm.
And most of them, when they got this feeling, they just ran away.
Hey, Penny, welcome back.
Thanks.
A
Oh
little
boy.
got booted up from there. So why don't you let everybody know your story and kind of when it was or where you were,
Okay. Well, it happened probably about, I would say about um, 7 to 10 years ago. Um,
Okay, that's weird because that's kind of like when mine happens around the same time. All right, go on.
yeah. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
you
hear you.
sound great.
Okay. Um, we deliver newspapers, and there's this what they we call a strip mall. And I was sitting in the parking lot with my father, and we were facing down the parking lot. It was a long parking lot, and we were at the very top of it, facing down. And my driver's side was to my father's passenger side of his van. And we were folding papers and this and that and the other, talking back and forth. Well, next thing I know, his attention is diverted to somebody standing on the side of his van. Now, I didn't see anybody walk up, but all of a sudden there was somebody there. And I could hear him talking, and he was giving some sort of directions or trying to give directions to some place. And I couldn't hear the person talking. Well, the next thing I know, this pale-skinned, dark-haired female leaned to the side so she could see past my father to me. And as soon as I made eye contact with nothing but black eyes. Okay. It freaked me out. And as soon as we made eye contact, she jerked back like I had scared her or she didn't want me to see her. Like we wasn't supposed to make eye contact. Well, this happened twice. She leaned over again, leaned sideways again to look at me. And I want to say it was fear in her eyes that I was making eye contact with her. And come to find out when I say she walked away. I don't know what happened to her. But I asked my father. I said, "What's going on?" And he said she was asking directions, but it was directions to a street that was not even in our parish. Okay, as my father was, he was a milkman, delivery man all his life, so he knew all the streets, and it was nothing that he had ever heard of in our parish. Well, we pulled off. No sooner that happened, and he told me what happened. We pulled off. Now this is an open area. Okay, the parking lot was long and big. It was a major, not major, but it was a main street, and it was clearly open from where we were parked that I could see down both ends of the parking lot, down the street, across the street, and down the other way. Well, when my dad pulled off with his van, this person was nowhere to be found. I mean, just like they disappeared into thin air. And it is something, like I told Raven, it's something that I have never forgotten. And just out of the blue, I'll just think about it. I don't know if I don't say that it scared me, but it just really freaked me out because it was like I said, almost like we weren't supposed to make eye contact with each other.
Yeah.
And I didn't ever either she was
You say
talking
that
that
they jumped
low
back.
or
You
Sorry, go
said
on.
that
What you
you.
guys saying?
Sorry, I didn't mean to break in on you, but
oh no, go ahead.
you say that this person jumped back like you scared them. What did they do
Yeah.
then? Did they just
Well,
go ahead?
she was talking to my dad, and it was like maybe I say maybe 10, 15, 20 seconds at the most later. She leaned back over again to look at me, and then I mean it was just I don't know how to explain it, but to me it was a fear in her eyes that maybe she knew that I could see that something wasn't right with her and that I wasn't supposed to see that. Maybe because my dad is not, I don't want to say the word connected, but my dad's kind of like,
In tuned?
well, he put it this way, anybody could walk up to my dad and he's not going to notice if they're on anything or if anything's wrong with them, but maybe she kind of felt that or saw that I could see that something was wrong with her or something was not right with her. And maybe that connection wasn't supposed to be made.
Or maybe even the fact that you could see her.
Yeah, yeah. But just, I mean, just, I'm not kidding you. Within about, after I asked my dad what happened, that it took like maybe 10 seconds for him to tell me, oh, she was looking for a street, but it wasn't in this parish. He cranked up his van. I cranked up mine. He took off first, and within 15 seconds, nowhere's to be seen. And like I said, just disappeared into thin air. And this place is wide open. So I mean,
Was she the only
it
one
was.
there? I mean, this was the middle of the night, right?
This was probably about 3:30 in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
why are they all hanging out at one,
well,
two,
that was
three in the
another
morning? Why
interesting
are we
fact
all
that I
hanging?
read. Most of these encounters usually happen at night. Usually when there's no one else around. But there have been a few daylight encounters. Um, but I didn't find really very many of them.
There's people who've had, was with a friend or somebody or a couple of friends, and they've seen some people when they were going in, going towards a bar that night. They ran into them on the sidewalk. There were some people who ran into them during the day at like a bookstore or in Walmart. I mean, these are things I've read. Are these, real stories? I have no idea. I would have to meet the person and have a one-on-one conversation with them. But I know that what I saw was real, and that person was real. Whatever they were, where they were from, I have no idea, but they existed. And Penny, when you saw this person, do you remember kind of like what they looked like? What did she have like? Was what her voice was like? I mean, her clothes. I mean, did anything else stand?
Did it talk to you?
No, I could not hear. And we're talking about a span of the length of my dad's van because I was parked maybe a foot away from the side of his van. So you're talking about maybe 6 feet, 5 feet.
So you got a pretty good look at her.
Yeah, but I could not hear her. I could hear my dad perfectly fine, but I could not hear her at all.
Huh? Like she tuned you out. Like she
Uh,
like, you
Like
know.
she literally tuned you out.
Yeah,
And
where
for
it
the
was just a
longest,
conversation between them two.
yeah, for the longest time, I'm thinking, her eyes were so just,
Black.
there was no white. Okay.
Yeah. There's
And
no
I'm thinking she was
explaining
really strung out on something. But you would see the white of the eyes, even if somebody's pupils were dilated.
that.
You would
Right.
see some
A
white.
little bit of it or the corner of it, yeah. But it's kind of like that picture I made up where it's like all just black. There's not even that little red tear duct. I didn't see
Yeah.
none of that. Yeah.
And she was pale skin, black hair, black as pitch hair. Um, I want to say she was wearing. Uh, uh, my dad's van is high, so I would be lying if I would say I knew exactly what she was wearing. But I want to say maybe it was a white shirt. I'm not exactly sure about that.
Did you get a
But
good look at
yeah.
her eyes? I mean, were they
Oh
completely
yeah.
black?
Oh yeah. Yep. Like I said, I thought at first.
Thought
I
she
mean,
was a
this was
crackhead, yeah.
yeah. At first, I mean, this was like I said, 7 to 10 years ago. So back then, I wasn't even into the paranormal or anything. So I did nothing even.
So
But
did you know anything about black-eyed beans
no,
before
I
your...
didn't.
Yeah, me either, yeah. So,
When after you encountered this woman, did you start checking into black-eyed people?
No, actually, I think. Oh gosh, I don't know whose show we were. It was on before. If I saw it on TV or if I saw it on one of the internet shows or something, is when I heard about black-eyed people.
yeah, I think it was an internet show too, really, that struck me, that
Scooby
Yeah.
wants to
made it
know about
come.
the texture of her hair or color of her skin.
Her skin, it was, all I remember was very pale. I mean, it was almost
Translucent?
kind of a sickly pale looking. I mean, just,
A gray pale.
yeah, there was no color. I mean, she was just pale.
Yeah.
And her hair
Did you
was straight as,
did you happen to
that.
notice the color of her hair?
Her hair, it was pitch black. I mean,
See,
my hair is black.
that fits in. That fits in with 90% of the descriptions.
Was her
You
hair
know,
stringy or looked
Nope.
odd or not natural hair? Or
It was
because
straight as a board and like, uh, it was kind of thinnish. It wasn't, no thick hair, but it was straight down, just straight as a board hair.
don't you find it odd that you can remember every detail about this person, but other people you encounter, or you just say a family member that you just ran into 10 minutes ago, you can't remember what they were wearing? I mean, like
Yep.
this is burnt in your brain forever. Now, did you feel fearful, anger, or have any odd feelings when you were talking to this person, or saw this person, I should say, and your dad was talking to them?
I want to,
did
there
your
was
dad
a,
talk to him?
yeah, my dad sure did. That's who she was talking to, supposedly asking directions for something,
Oh,
for someplace.
I missed
Yeah.
that part.
And,
Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
oh no, no. It's fine. And the conversation probably, I think between them lasted about 45 seconds, maybe to a minute, not even that long. And within that span is when, like first 30 seconds is whenever she would lean over and she looked at me twice. And it was like, did I fear anything? I have to say that there was that stomach or the heart dropping down into the pit of the stomach feeling
Mm-hmm.
when she first looked at me
What
because it was
shape were her
so
eyes?
odd.
Wait, what were you saying, Penny? Finish your sentence first.
Well, I mean, it just struck me as so odd that her, I mean, just I was looking into to pitch black. There
Yeah.
was, like I said, it was soulless. There was no soul in her eyes.
Yeah, it's like a black that you don't. It's unnatural. Like, I don't even know what animal would have that type of black that I saw. I mean, I can't even think of an animal that has that. It's like a black, shiny black. I don't even know
Yeah.
how to explain it. It's just, and yeah.
What
The shape, the, you asked the shape of the eyes.
Mhm.
Um, I don't want to say alienish, but um, I I wouldn't say normal shaped. I don't know what normal would be, but they were big. I mean, that's all I could say is they were big. Like too bigger for her face, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, they're just unnatural.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different shape. Yeah.
I don't know if you say almond shape or what, but to me, they were just
Yeah,
too
that's
big for her face.
yeah, it's kind of close to what you could say maybe like almond, but even then you're like debating. I don't know. It doesn't really fit the shape that I saw. I don't. I would have to probably look at so many different shapes to try to, but I've never seen anybody with eyes like that since. And I've seen people wear contacts and stuff, and nobody's ever matched up to what I saw. So.
Well, I know one thing. If I'd have had a cell phone, it would have been up and I'd have been snapping pictures. Because I mean, if I'd have known then what I know now,
Mhm.
I probably would have gotten out of the van and confronted this person.
Right, but like we said, me and you both didn't know
Yeah,
or ever heard of these things before, so it's like it didn't really, dawn on us to think, hey, whatever. But I find it odd that you had that your experiences around the same time that I did, about 7 or so years ago. That's really weird that we had it around the same time. We're in totally two different states, and
yeah,
it's around about the same time at night. 1, 2, 3 in the morning. You know what I mean? And this person had similar skin tonage and was, uh, did you say how her voice was? Was she monotone, and did she have like a emotion behind her? Did she seem anxious or angry? Or I mean, I forgot if you said that yet.
but no, I couldn't hear her voice. I could hear
Oh,
my
that's right.
dad's plainly, yeah, but I could. And to me, I don't know if that would fit the profile of them or not, but she actually looked like I said, and she may not have looked that way with my dad, but when I saw her,
Like
it
she
was a
showed,
fearful look in her.
yeah, like she wanted you gone so she could do what she needed to get done with your
Yeah,
dad. Yeah.
or maybe she, I don't know, maybe she saw something in me that at that time I wasn't knowing about myself. I don't know how to explain that.
I don't
That
know.
maybe I would,
Protect.
later on realize that I had seen something that I shouldn't have seen,
Right.
you know. But
Right.
what can I do about it now? I mean, I'll never see her again in my life, so but
Well, I hope so. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't want to see mine again. You don't want to see yours again. And I definitely don't want to run into the ones that people seem to have really bad experiences with. Like
Yeah.
ours wasn't really a bad experiences, but the ones that I've read about on the internet, people, these things were yelling at them and, screaming at them, demanding them to do things. But ours, they were a little bit coy, you know?
Yeah.
Um, you said that your dad talked to this woman.
Yeah.
Did he say anything about her? Did he mention her eyes? Did he say anything about her except for the fact that she was wanting directions someplace?
Yeah, did he think she was odd?
I think this is a while back, so I'm not sure, but I think the conversation came up later on, like maybe that morning or that day, and it was mentioned about she looked like she was strung out on drugs to him, okay, and to me at the time. So I think he did realize that something was strange about her. Something was different.
Right. I mean,
But
we've seen, I'm sure you probably have, but I've seen people strung out on drugs
I
and
have
stuff,
to.
and I know
Maybe
what they
that's what he
do with
thought,
it.
that she was strung out on
Yeah.
something.
Right.
Yeah.
But they
I-
don't, but what I saw, and I think from what Penny saw,
It's
it's,
completely different.
yeah, it's totally different, and that the shaped eyes and how black
Did
she was.
um did she disappear fast? You know,
Oh my
like in
gosh.
Raven's case, I mean, when your dad come back to the van, did you happen to look and see if she was still there? Was she gone?
Well, he was still sitting in his van, and like I said, it was just a matter of maybe not even 15 seconds that I asked, what did she want? And he said, oh, she was looking for a city or street, but he knows the parish, so he knew that the street she was looking for wasn't in this parish. And that's what he said to me, is that she was looking for a street that's not in this parish. And I was like, okay. So we cranked up our vans, and he pulled out ahead of me. I mean, maybe 20 seconds. And no, she was absolutely nowhere. And look, that freaked me out more than anything. Was when I'm looking, I'm like, where did she go? I mean, it's just like she just disappeared into thin air. I said, well, just thinking, where did she go? I'm looking down the parking lot. I'm looking behind me in the parking lot. I'm looking up and down the street, across the street, and nothing. Just absolutely nothing.
Scooby wonders if it's the black-eyed being in the same one that both Raven and Penny saw, the one that the other person saw that got ahead of them by a few intersections. I wouldn't know about that. I mean, they live more than 1,000 miles apart.
And they both looked different. Mine had blondish, palish hair, and hers had black hair. Mine, I think, was like in her 20s, though. Her early 20s, early mid
I do.
20s.
I will say that my van, my brother, sorry, my dad's van does sit up a little bit higher. He has a regular size van. I have an Astro van. If anybody knows about that, one's a little bit shorter than the other. She was a very short, um, petite person, from what I could tell. She was,
Yeah, mine was small frame, too. Yeah.
yeah, almost girlish, almost childish, kind of. Uh,
Yeah, very thin and teenish, 20ish, but perfect skin. I don't know if yours had perfect skin or what, if you remember
well,
her face.
yeah, yeah, flawless. And I say that only because of the if she was heavy set or a little bit bigger frame than what I could see or could tell, her face was kind of longish, not longish, but it was well defined as far as the features.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I could tell, she was, like I said, she was just a smaller built person, like maybe childish kind of built.
How old would you say she was?
I would put her in her early 20s. Yeah, I would put her in her early 20s.
I
Uh,
find it odd that she had perfect skin too and just had a lot of similarities to what I experienced, except for she had jet black hair, mine had blondish, you know, dull hair, but the fact that we've seen them around the same year time span and everything just seemed weird. But she was just out by herself and then you guys just drove away. She had to have like ran somewhere or hid behind something. Was there anywhere for she could hide behind?
do you think
Not
these
absolutely
people, as
nowhere.
fast as they're moving, do you think that they might be like, I don't know, a dimension jumper or something? I mean, there's hundreds of reports of how fast these people appear or disappear.
Right. That's why I was thinking, okay, I know I touched this person, I was solid, everything was solid, but the fact that she disappeared so quickly made me think, okay, was this paranormal? What the heck? It just, nothing of it adds up for me, and from what it sounds like, Penny, it sounds like it's something that you think about over several times too.
Well, I'm sitting here right now and I could replay it over in my mind just like it happened a few
Yes.
minutes ago.
Yeah,
See,
exactly.
that's
You know,
another thing. Everybody that encounters them remembers them.
To a T.
Yeah, it's like they can remember every little detail about them.
Yeah, even what was around me to detail. Well, I know what I was wearing that night. I know what the weather was like. I know what everything looked like around me, and I'll never forget that, it's like burned in my head. Like, you will remember this. That's kind of like,
Yeah,
for
well,
me,
I found it strange. I mean, the thing that I find strange now is knowing a little bit more about it is why would she have the fear,
I know
and
that's
even though
strange.
even though I did, like I said, I felt like my heart dropped down into my stomach the first time she leaned over and I looked at her and saw, I was like, whoa, what's wrong with this kid person? And
maybe
but it
this
was,
thing knew that you knew something was up. And, you know,
That's
maybe,
what I was
maybe
thinking.
it
Maybe
thought
they
you were
can sense
onto
these
it.
things.
Yeah.
That
Maybe
maybe,
that
it
you
knew
like
were
one of
sus-
the
that
people.
you were suspicious of her. You thought something was up. Maybe she knew that.
or like I said, maybe they can read a person and say, okay, well, like I said, back then I had no interest in the paranormal or anything, or any of this.
Right, and you're really fearful of her, like I
Well,
wasn't
yeah, well, maybe she kind of read something in me that at the time I wasn't
aware of.
knowing about
That
myself.
would be
Yeah,
my first
that's hard to
reaction
explain.
is suspicion. I mean, of course, I
Yeah.
Well,
say
that's
that,
easy to
and I
say.
say that, and I'll probably, if I ever encounter one, I'd probably be scared to
Do the
death.
totally opposite. Yeah, it's easy to say this is what I do because it's easy for anybody to say that, but until you have your experience with something that doesn't match up that we normally know what to be here, you never know how you're really going to react. I know that I didn't act in a fearful way and I wasn't panicked. I wasn't scared. So maybe this thing knew that I wasn't an easy victim. Maybe they could read me and tell that, that I wasn't, but When you encountered yours, do you recall the time? Did a lot of time go by? Did a little bit of time go? Did time just disappear? I mean, was it just
No.
you and the vans? Do you remember everything around you? I mean,
Oh
did you?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember everything. I mean, I can see it all right now. Is all
Oh yeah,
you
no,
know.
I know. But at the time when you were watching this person, did everything else kind of just kind of fade into the background, and it was just you focusing in on this person and your dad, and then you just kind of tuned out the rest of your surroundings? Did you have something similar like I was explaining what was happening to me? I'm just curious, or
No, I
oh,
don't. I really don't remember that. Maybe because time went away. No.
yeah, it could.
um,
Maybe time stops when you see these things, for all we know,
That's what I was wondering, if maybe time stopped or maybe it moved faster.
right?
yeah.
Or maybe we
You know,
lost
yeah,
time.
I mean, you say your dad talked to her for 45 minutes. Did it seem longer than that? Did How long do you think it felt like that you were there at this place, and from the time you saw this person to the time that you and your dad left?
Well, it was 45 seconds. If I said minutes, I apologize. It was 45 seconds. It was about 45 seconds to total.
I was gonna say I can't see you sitting around talking to
I
someone
know, I
for
can't
30
see you
seconds
sitting
or 45
still
minutes.
for
Yeah,
45 minutes while your dad's off talking to someone that
yeah,
you're suspicious of to begin with, and
right.
that you
Uh,
know that
I,
there's something just not right about them.
yeah, no, it was I would say about 45 seconds. Um, and I forgot what you asked me. I'm sorry. It threw me off at the 45 minutes.
Well, maybe I said 45 minutes when you said 45 seconds. It's
All right.
hard to say.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
when we came on, I said welcome to Anything But Live.
I
Yeah.
heard. Um,
At least you
it was
didn't bad on the show, so.
yet. Um,
Bless your heart.
yes, thank you very much. Um, okay, I'd say the whole thing lasted about 45 seconds, but it was probably about 10 or 15 seconds into the conversation that she leaned over and looked at me. And about another 5 to 10 seconds, again, she leaned over again and looked at me. And I don't remember any lapse of time or anything that would have, I don't know, boggled my mind or anything
Maybe
that
you
would.
didn't,
Well,
maybe
the
you didn't,
reason I asked is
I don't
because
know.
the reason I asked both
Yeah.
of you that question is because, like I said, some people believe that they're aliens, and everything I've ever read about alien abductions, they lost time. Some people even lost days. So I was just kind of wondering if either one of you lost any time, if you
Like
were
I
I said,
don't
actually
think
there longer than you thought.
I
so.
think it could be possible. I mean, I didn't look at the time. I
Yeah,
was just
maybe
bewildered by what I saw, you know.
maybe with Raven because her different setup and all than mine, but with me, with my dad being right there,
Yeah.
and I pulled away right after he did. Um, no, I don't think anything was is lost with me.
Maybe that's why she was anxious because you were there and she couldn't get him alone to
And
get
she,
Yeah,
yeah, and
what
she
she
knew that
needed.
you weren't going to leave until he was in his vehicle and he was leaving too.
Right.
yeah, because I tell you, my dad is. We worry about him so much because anybody can walk up to him, and he's either not going to know it till they're right up on them, or he's one of those that they ain't going to do anything to me. So yeah, I was going to hang around to make sure. You know,
See, my mom is the same way. She never meets a stranger.
that's my dad.
But I also know too that if she ever encountered one of these, the first thing she would say is, that person's on dope. Because everything is either a conspiracy,
God
or
bless.
someone's on drugs, or someone's on dope, or someone just isn't right and you can tell it.
Well, see, I think that's why the conversation we had later on is I can't remember if I brought it up or my dad brought it up, but that was his reaction was she was on drugs. That's his whole explanation for it. Was she was strung out, as you
because she
said?
was acting so strangely, and she was probably acting so strangely because whatever she was going to do, you were not letting her do it just by being there.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like I said, everything that I've read about them, they don't want witnesses. Whatever it is they do, they don't want other people to see it. And most of these people that have encountered them have been alone when they've done so.
Well, see, I have a question about that. I mean, say like, okay, what do y'all think would have happened um, if I would have got out of the van and approached her? I mean, would she have tried to draw me in too, or would she have run away, or
I
has
don't know.
anybody encountered that where somebody else has stepped in and tried to, that if I'm making myself clear, if it has anybody else, any case of anybody else tried to step in and it broke that spell or broke that connection?
You know what? That's a
Yeah,
good word, what you
exactly.
just said, spell or connection, because that's kind of like, I didn't know how to explain it, but that's kind of like it was. It was like I was in
You were under some sort of
a
spell.
trance type thing, yeah. And like I said, everything faded out, but it was just me and her, and I was doing things that I normally wouldn't act like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's things that baffle me. Like, why did I act that way? Why did I act carelessly? Why did I invite this random person who's a weirdo looking into my house? There's so many things, and I kept thinking, I'm so glad they did not come into my house. I'm like,
Hmm.
Yeah.
I
what
bet
was
you
I
were
thinking?
relieved that she didn't come in.
I'm super relieved that she didn't come in, but I kept thinking, why did I say that? Why didn't I just bring the phone out? Why would
I'm
I?
I'm just curious and would like to know why she didn't. I
I'm
mean,
glad she
she
didn't.
actually turned down your help.
Maybe because she could read me and know that maybe I was protected. Maybe she did. Maybe time disappeared and maybe, I was out there longer than I thought. Maybe we did go somewhere. I don't know. I just remember is this part and it's burned in my head. Every single minute and detail of her, so I
See,
don't know.
you brought up a good point. Is that, I mean, not that my dad isn't spiritual or anything. I mean, and I'm not saying that, but maybe because I do. I mean, I'm very straightforward with my spirituality and my faith and stuff. Maybe she sensed that in me. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but I'm one that's confrontational. Okay, haha. Believe it or not. Shut up. And 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 I mean, if I had felt if it had gone on any longer, I would have gotten out of the van and approached her because I've done it before with somebody that's approached my dad, and I've had them back off because he just won't do it. I mean, he's Mr. Nice Guy. But I've wondered about that. If I had confronted her, what would have happened? I mean, it's a mystery to me.
If
If
you
she
had
just disappeared
confronted her,
like
you
that,
could have been in real danger.
that's I've thought about that.
I mean,
Yeah, I guess so if you refused to offer the help or if your dad refused to listen to her, maybe something different could have happened, just like a different outcome with me. What if I chose not to help her? Would this thing come pounding on my door? I don't know. All we know is what we saw and experienced at that moment. Do we have answers? Can we tell you what it was and why it happened? I know I can't, but I know it was real, and I know what they looked like, and I know that they were not
but
normal.
you actually touched yours, so you know it's real. I
Yeah,
mean,
she touched me when she handed me the rag, so our hands.
you still touched. You
Right.
And I
still
bet you can still
touched.
feel that touch.
Yeah, she was freezing cold. The car was freezing cold, and it was weird because it was like, it's hot summertime.
Was she a clammy cold?
Mm, to be honest, I think I was just engrossed with everything that was going on. That I was trying to just take everything in all in one split second. Like that, none of this is adding up. That it was hot, and it was nighttime, and these things were like cold, like a freezer box cold. You know, that make that doesn't add up. You know what I mean? Why was the car ice cold, not cold where it's been sitting a while? That's normal in this, summertime. At night, it'd still be warm, not ice cold. And I know, yes, when cars overheat, you let them sit for a while and then you take off the cap and add the water or whatever, do your thing. But this thing was ice cold and she was ice cold. And that's another thing that always stood out for me. It's I'll always analyze this, I think, till the day I die, and I'll probably never get the answers until I pass on. You know?
Well, it sounds like it's something that is just a huge mystery. I don't know if anybody would ever find out the answers to it unless they were able to capture one, you know? I
Right.
mean,
Or and if they do find out the answer, maybe those are the ones that don't come back.
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
Yep.
because they talk about reptilian people, they talk about there's so many different things. You know what I mean? That people see and or experience, and it's like maybe Spooky has a point because we did kind of talk about Bigfoot being a dimensional jumper. Someone who travels between dimensions. Maybe that's why it was so easy for them to disappear, like she was saying. Maybe they just
yeah,
slip in
because for an
between.
animal that weighs over 600 pounds, they get around pretty quick.
Yeah,
Um,
and leave no scat, but that's a different story.
yeah.
Well, you mentioned the reptilian people.
They have
This,
black eyes, don't they, at
well,
times?
this goes to another show that we used to watch, and they had a show about, they had some guests on there that I think they claimed to be reptilian people. And
Yeah, I remember
this
that.
actually came to mind about this girl while this show was going on. I actually thought about this girl while this show was going on.
Hmm. Like maybe that's what she was.
Well, I don't necessarily believe in all that.
Well, me either. I didn't believe in black-eyed
I
beings,
don't
but I
believe in
ran into
reptilian.
them.
I don't believe in reptilian people, but I mean, it wouldn't stop me from doing a show on them.
Oh
But
Yeah.
yeah,
um,
we probably are going to do a show on it,
I,
actually.
like I said, I have never encountered one of these things. Okay, but I have heard about them for quite a while, and I just kind of dismissed it because I thought, okay, it's a goth. I mean, they dress dark. They usually dye their hair black, and they could possibly buy black contacts.
Eyeliner and stuff. Eye
Yeah,
contact,
Eye
eyeliner
contact.
and all that.
yeah, and
But
stuff. And I even heard of of people getting their eyeballs tattooed. That makes me shudder every time I even mention that.
yeah, that's crazy.
Maybe they had the whites of their eyes tattooed black. This is exactly what I thought when I first started hearing about these things. But the more I dug into it, the more that I'm finding out that there are literally thousands of reports of encounters with these things.
Right.
Now, all those people can't be imagining it. I mean, you touched one, Raven. You
Yeah, and
didn't.
I spent a lot of time talking with
You
this
spent a
person.
lot. Yeah, you probably spent 5 or 10 minutes talking to one.
But it seemed like it was hours. To be honest with you, I'm stuttering now. But to be honest with you, it seemed like I was out there with her for hours and hours and hours. Even though I know it couldn't have been because we hardly said any. She hardly said any words to me. I was the one talking to her. She only said a few words, but it felt like I was out there forever with her. You know what I mean? But it couldn't
The
have been
thing too is, with both of us, they disappeared that quick.
right. Like
Yeah, I mean, like
I
snap
had
your
turned my
fingers, they're
back and
gone.
she was gone. Yeah, I turned my back and she was gone.
That's
And
why
that
I would mention dimension jumpers. Somebody that can jump through time from one place to another.
Or well,
you know
different
what?
dimensions is not really time. I think it's just different. Beings live on different. What do they
Well,
call it?
dimension jumpers, I'd be from different planes, but I mean, time would be
Yeah,
involved in that.
I suppose. But also, I mean, maybe could these things be paranormal? Because, like I said, she resembled slightly my friend who had passed.
Well, that would make me think that it was a demon,
Yeah.
but it doesn't sound like that it acted like a demon. A demon would have taken a chance to go into your house and
How do you
do
know?
whatever it wanted because
How do
you
you know?
invited it in.
But how do you know it? Maybe it knew it couldn't because maybe there's something that was protecting me that I was unaware of. That
Well,
these
Well,
folks knew it
they
wasn't going to let me.
obviously have
That's
a
why.
sense
Yeah.
of people because Penny startled that one,
that's what I
and
think happened.
And
and
I had
she,
no fear to mine, so.
yeah, and I mean it didn't approach Penny because it probably knew that
Penny would be like, get
Penny
out of
was
here.
going to confront her.
Yes.
The Italian would have come out in me. Did you feel fear? Did you see any kind of like emotions on her face, Raven, like fear
No,
or
nope, nope.
nothing?
It's like her face didn't even move. It was like perfect. That's what I'm saying. And I don't even. I mean, I know her mouth moved because she said a couple words, but it was like everything was flawless and perfect, and she was perfect, but she was off. Her hair wasn't really. I mean, it was blonde, but it wasn't really a blonde. It was like translucent, deep, like odd hair like dead people have, and her skin was just, although a gray off white odd color, it was flawless. And nobody has perfect. I'm sorry, nobody's perfect. I mean, not even when you have plastic surgery can you be perfect. And I mean,
Everybody has some sort of flaw. I don't care how gorgeous they are, how great they look. Everybody has got a flaw or two that
well,
is
that,
noticeable.
right,
The more
every,
she keeps talking and describing this, what she saw is exactly what I saw, except for the black hair.
and it was summertime. Why wasn't she tanned? I mean, she had a short sleeve type of shirt on, but it was kind of like, well, it was white, but she wasn't wearing black. But I remember it was like a whitish color. I don't even remember her pants anymore, or what she had on her bottoms, even if she had a bottom. I don't even know anymore. I just remember her face is stuck out
Do you remember if she had on dark clothing or black,
white. Mine was white, white.
And
white
I want to say
clothes?
mom white too, white clothes.
Yeah, just plain clothes. Like they didn't fit this century. It was just plain and no design to them, and it didn't. It was just you knew it
Maybe
didn't.
they were Amish.
No,
No
well,
design to their clothing.
yeah,
That was a mean thing to say, and I do apologize. Um,
well, yeah. If you don't think Amish are mean, but I thought you meant you were trying to explain the clothing. They
I
didn't
was
look like
talking
that,
about their clothing.
right? I understood what you're trying to say, but no, they. I guess. I mean, it could have been kind of like that white top. I don't remember what her bottoms were, but you know what? I would have. I wish I was closer to see how she moved, because I know a lot of people said that the way that they moved was unnatural, and it didn't. They didn't walk natural. Like there was some off with their movement as well. And I wish I kind of
Well,
was closer at the time to
some
see how
people
she moved.
reported it was like they were floating, not walking, but floating. So, with a couple inches off the ground or something, that was a big uh,
Penny, Penny's right.
amount of
I mean,
people
she
made
did
that.
come off, but Penny was right. She did come off soulless. It was like if she was just a carcass with black
Yeah.
eyeballs, and she had this unnatural skin and unnatural color. And like I said, she must have stolen my brother's car and said, "Here, we'll just pretend this is mine," And she had similarities to my friend who had passed. But I not. We keep talking about this, and I'm going over it in my head the whole time that we're talking tonight. And it's like the way that she talked, the way that her mannerisms, everything else. To me, it seemed like she was just a carcass. There was nothing to her but just a body that was going through motions. Now that I think about it, because
She
she
did.
had nothing, no personality, no emotion, no change in her voice, and her eyes were. I don't even
Now,
think
see,
there's
that's a
anything.
very common description of them. That's one description of them that everybody that has an encounter with them gives. It was like they had no personality, no emotions, unless they got mad.
But her face didn't even like crinkle, or she didn't even crack a smile. I don't even know if she had teeth. It's just she
Maybe
was
she
just
had sharp, pointy teeth, and you were probably lucky she didn't smile. She might have taken a bite out of you.
because I'm so sweet. Da da da.
Oh, yeah.
No, but
And we all know that.
Penny, when so you kind of, I mean, did you feel? I mean, I don't know. She was a little further away. I think it's odd that you can hear her, and she wasn't even that far away. But your dad's talking all loud, and he can't hear that well,
No,
and
no.
you can hear her at all. That to me baffles me. That it's almost like she said, "You're not allowed to hear this." Like she was trying to entice him and whisper him into her, trance, so that she could do whatever she needed to get done.
Yeah, well, I was going to say earlier that I mean, you sit here and you think about it and things come to mind, but I did ask my dad before we pulled off. I said, "Well, where did she go?" And he looked back and he looked forward. He says, "I have no idea," and he pulled off. So, I mean, it was a lot
He's
sooner
like, I
than
don't care, bye.
He apparently did not give the encounter a second thought. He just thought she was strung out and that was it.
Yeah. And if you knew
So,
my dad, he doesn't give anything a second thought. So, I
But
mean, it
makes me wonder if he read these stories or saw a story on TV about black-eyed beans, if it would recollect his memory on this incident, and if he
that's not
would
a bad
start
idea.
to think maybe you should say, hey Dad, check this out sometime, and see maybe if
Yeah.
and see,
he
I,
won't like
I,
think of
I, I watch paranormal documentaries. I watch all kinds of documentaries. But I've never seen one about black-eyed people. And everything that I found out about them, I had to get off the internet
hmm
because it was something that I never gave a second thought to because like I said before, I thought they were goths. I know a few goths and that's basically the way they look.
Well, I've known goth and emo people, but they don't really they seem like that. But it's trends that people go through, and I think maybe nowadays these people are buying these lenses, but these lenses aren't comfortable. They're not the type that you can get where they're studio made, and even studio made for movies are uncomfortable after a while. They scratch your eyes and stuff. I can't imagine people running around wearing something that covers your whole entire eye. I think what do they
Well,
call them,
since
scapulas or something like that. I can't remember what they called them, but it's impossible. And what I saw was not a contact. There is nothing in this world that could create what I saw on this being, this person.
when
It's
Spooky mentioned about goth, the first person came to mind was Marilyn Manson. And I mean, he does the eye black eyes and the black. I'm pretty sure the black contacts, but there's
not
still that white around his eyes.
Well, the
right.
thing of it is too is that people, I mean, this would have to be full eye contacts and that has to be uncomfortable. And one of the things
Yes,
that
for
people
children to
say is
afford these
that
things.
their eyes are shaped different. They're not shaped like a normal human's eye. That they're a little bit bigger and they're more of an almond shape.
But I don't even know if it's almond because almond doesn't really fit exactly what I see in my head, but it's close to what I could say it fits to. You know,
Well, if
I
they
almost
had
want to say
contact
snake
lenses
too.
that covered their entire eyes, that has to be uncomfortable. And surely nobody can wear them for any length of time at all. Even in
And
the movies, when they do the makeup and stuff, I
right.
mean, they might put colored contact lenses in their eyes, but like I was watching the latest Star Trek movie, they had a thing on there that had these big black eyes, but they were on a mask, and you could just about tell that they were on a mask.
But a lot of stuff you see on TV is also, what are they, CGI, and so they don't even have to wear contacts. But, you know, if everybody's seeing children having black eyes, how are these children affording such expensive contacts, let alone why are they running around at all hours at night, alone? Who,
And most of
you
the
know,
children appear dirty and
homely looking.
yeah.
Homeless.
So, and
Just
I
saying.
think they look that way to get a person's
Sympathy.
sympathy to gain access to their homes. I really do.
It does kind of make you wonder,
Well,
what films.
you're going to do what it takes.
Yeah, but the thing that like I said, how I was kind of like under its spell, like bewitched a little bit, just like whoa, just me, her, and this thing, and I was doing things normally I wouldn't do. It makes you wonder, like they must have some way of. I mean, because she didn't really say anything, but I mean, maybe I still have a hard time believing. I hate saying demons, or aliens exist and vampires exist and Bigfoot exists. I mean, I have hard to believe that, but I know what I saw and what it is. I just don't know. I don't know if I'll ever be able to tell you guys what it is. I do know that it happened, and I do know that these things exist. I just
Yeah,
can't
but
tell you.
even Bigfoot has a history. I mean, these things have no history.
But
They're
maybe they do. Maybe they are demons. Maybe they are aliens. Maybe they are things that have always been around that, and they just choose who they show themselves to.
could be. I mean, ghosts are known to do that. They're fickle. They, they, they either show themselves or they don't.
Right.
But
But I think you had Kim for the good thing. The fact that, okay, Penny couldn't hear hers, but her dad heard it clear and they're having a long conversation. And then you said, well, did anybody see you? And maybe they did see you and saw you, talking to nobody or nothing, And that makes me think, makes me think like, whoa, maybe, you know?
Yeah, but your encounter and her encounter was like the middle of the night, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right?
Nobody's going to be around except some drunk going home
Cop or,
or a cop or a burglar or a mugger or somebody. Those are the only people that come out at night.
hey,
Or newspaper carriers.
I don't know,
Oh, well,
me and her
a lot
aren't
of aliens
burglars,
come out at night
drunks.
too.
No, but me and her were out. We're not burglars and drunks and bad guys. It's just there's are other people that do roam
Well,
out
it's
at
it's
night.
different with her. She was doing a job. You were going home. It's not like you were. It's
Roaming the
not like
streets.
you or her were just gallivanting around. Just
Yeah, I think
walk the streets at 2 o'clock in the morning while everybody else is asleep.
I think Scooby's right. She said it seems like it was something not human trying to present itself as human, but can't get it
Yeah.
quite right, which is why people who encounter them feel like something's off. And you know
That
what?
is a very good point.
That's if from listening to what we're saying, it is right because like we said, they weren't normal, they weren't natural. There's nothing in this nobody that matches them, And I'm sorry, there is no contact in the world that could ever create what I saw, ever. So
See, the
And
thing
that's
with me is,
something, that both of you are going to probably think about for the rest of your lives.
I
well, that's what I was just going to touch on real quick is that, something happens and if it's not extraordinary or something, it's out of my mind in a few minutes. But this has stayed with me all these years to
yeah,
where, I mean, I can relive that moment, just
like that,
vivid,
And you
just
can
like that.
probably remember every little detail.
Yep,
Just
I
well,
like
sure can.
Raven. Raven can remember every little detail.
I
right.
can remember the lighting, everything just
Everything
did.
around you. Yep, probably what you're wearing. I want to say thank you for calling and sharing your story with me. And Scooby, I hope that we'll have the podcast up and hopefully it'll help other people that you were talking to. And it's up to anybody else. But you know what? I know what I saw. Penny, you know what you saw, and we only have a couple minutes left, so we're gonna have to close out the show. But I thank everybody who came in and everybody who stuck with us, and you know like you said, if anybody wants to, call in or share stuff with us, just contact us and we'll, get you on the show.
I want to thank everybody for joining us, and I hope that you will join us next week for May 27th, when we're going to be getting into one of my favorites, and that is the Wild West Outlaws. We're going to be discussing mainly Coleman Younger and his link to Bloody Bill Anderson, Jesse James, and the infamous outlaw Belle Starr. And if you have any comments about tonight's show or suggestions about topics, you can find a comment section here on our website, or you can email us at anythingbutordinary@live.com. And please feel free to share us on Facebook.
Good night. Thank you, everybody. Good
Good
night,
night,
our
everybody.
mods.
Good night, y'all.